Hello everyone, my name is Pete Sageman, content strategist at Chili Publish, and today I'd like to talk to you about how to make your assets more dynamic. It's essentially about giving your DAM a presentation layer for maximum impact. Let's talk about your visual footprint. It's what makes your brand a brand. Your visual footprint contains your brand elements. They're immediately recognizable, they're visible on everything you do, and they form the basis for the perception that your customers have of you. It sets expectations with them. When you make your visual identity guidelines, there's two steps. One, you create them. You create the brand book, create the guidelines. It takes a lot of effort and energy. And then you try to enforce them. And that's where most of the effort is actually spent in trying to enforce the brand identity guidelines worldwide across many different organizations and organizational divisions. DAM plays a big role in your visual footprint. It allows you to centralize assets in a single location and curate them, make them available or distribute them, and repurposing and reformatting them for many different uses. But even with a DAM in place, this is how it's done. It's a largely manual process. You start by briefing the designer and giving them all of the guidelines they have to respect, all the content they need to use, and then it goes into the creative process. The creative process means the designer goes through all of the actions required to build a finalized visual using the tools that they know, like InDesign or Illustrator, and when they're finally done, they move on to the approval stage. And sometimes that's corrections. It has to go through a number of these cycles to get approved. And when there's a final version, you can start doing the isations. Isations are things like changing the language, changing the market, changing the product, all of these different permutations of the same basic design that you need. And quite often there's lots of them. That manual process brings with it a number of challenges. In the first place, there's brand challenges. You have to have brand governance. You have to protect your brand across all channels. There needs to be brand compliance. Everybody has to adhere to the brand identity guidelines. There's a risk of errors and omissions. These are embarrassing, but not really life-threatening. And there's a risk where you expose the company to litigation. Now, this is when you get something wrong, like forgetting to put a peanut allergy warning on your label. Second, there's scale challenges. So scale challenges means, well, we need to work globally across different time zones. There's also a limit to the execution bandwidth. There's only so many designers that can work on a project at any given time. And if you want to scale quickly, that increases cost dramatically. And finally, there's time to market challenges. That graphic design lifecycle takes time. The approval cycle in itself takes time. Producing all the variants takes a lot of time. And then you've got silo problems because for different channels, there's different tools that people like to use. So in short, building finalized visuals with assets in your DAM takes time, it costs money, and it includes a certain amount of risk. So how do we fix that graphics process with smart templates? Well, we simplify and we automate the way that's done. First, we use smart templates. Smart templates define which elements can be edited and how. They embed automatic design decisions right in the templates, so they can make changes automatically. They include intelligence like brand identity guidelines, and because of that, they require little or no review cycles for final approval. Next, you can enable self-service. You can let users with no graphic training create ready-to-use graphics in their browser, and you can get to market quicker than you would when you had to do everything manually. So those two steps, smart templates and enabling self-service, simplify how graphics are produced. But you can go further. You can connect to data sources. Data sources are your single source of truth information. You can integrate with virtually any data platform that you've got, like e-commerce, DAM, PIM, CRM, etc., down to the humble Excel sheet. If you do that, you can eliminate content errors because you're using single source of truth information. And you can automatically apply any changes to the data source in the smart template. You can do that only if you've got a comprehensive REST API though. Also, you can automate variant production. Because a lot of time is spent on doing the variant production, it makes sense to automate that. You can automatically generate a lot of different variants from the same template. You can build variants for different products, different dimensions, different markets, different languages, etc. This saves a huge amount of time, and it eliminates a lot of the boring, repetitive work. Next to simplifying how graphics are built, you can also automate large parts of it. Connect your smart templates to single source of truth data and automatically generate all the different variants that you need. So what are the results? Number one, you get better brand governance. Because you have the brand identity guidelines on board and compliance built in, you're always on brand. And you can use a single tool to build all assets for any channel. The second result is you can deliver graphics at scale. You can let your users self-service in any time zone, wherever they may be, and let anybody in the organization create their own custom graphics. Next, you're faster to market. Because you've optimized the process, because you've reduced the number of approval cycles, you can go to market faster and beat your competition. You reduce errors. There are fewer errors because you can control the brand violations with the intelligence in the smart template. You can control the errors because you're using single source of truth information. Your data is all curated, and that allows you to pretty much eliminate content errors. You also save cost. You reduce the labor cost for doing the design work. You reduce your agency cost, and you limit the costs that you need for licensing and tools. And finally, you can drive adoption. Because you can synchronize efforts across all departments, you can create a lot of added value for your entire organization. You can drive adoption of your DAM platform and drive asset usage. Here are some things to keep in mind when you do your research. Make sure the solution you're looking at has advanced intelligence. There's a lot of basic editing solutions out there, but for true industrial use, you need something that's kind of robust. Make sure the constraints, locking and unlocking things, determining what can be edited, are granular. They need to go beyond the basic lock and unlock, and they need to be highly specific to an element, a layer, a page, or even a user. Avoid dependencies. You want to make sure that the solution is standalone and is not dependent from a third-party technology provider with their own release cycles and their own issues. Make sure the solution is able to produce ready-to-go output files. Whether they're PDFs or images, they need to be ready to go directly into production without any manipulation whatsoever. The solution has to be easy to integrate, and it has to be visually accurate. You need true what you see is what you get on screen, and you need to know exactly what's going to come out, including advanced typography, a very precise positioning, etc. And finally, it should be easy to implement and use. It should be quick to install, set up, and configure. And the learning curves for both template builders and users should be very, very short. If you want to learn more, check out chilipublish.com. You'll find great resources as white papers and webinars specifically about these subjects. Check it out and learn more.